Hello and welcome back to the Daily English Lab podcast. Are you speaking English but nobody's really listening? Not because your grammar is bad, but because you're boring. Sound familiar? Here's the harsh truth. 73% of English learners can construct a grammatically perfect sentence, but they still struggle to keep a conversation alive. They lose people mid-story. They stumble during presentations. They watch native speakers build connections effortlessly while they feel invisible. But what if I told you that fluency isn't about perfection? It's about communication power. And today, I'm showing you the exact techniques that transform you from someone who just speaks English to someone people actually want to listen to. In the next 15 minutes, you'll discover 3 secret shifts that completely change how people perceive your English. And trust me, the first one will shock you. Let's go. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking. We talk about real strategies for real English communication, not textbook nonsense. Here's why we're doing this today. Most English courses teach you grammar, but nobody teaches you how to actually talk like someone people want to listen to. You can ace your TOEFL, but blank out when you need to pitch an idea at work. You know all the rules, but your stories fall flat. You've memorized vocabulary, but conversations still feel stilted and awkward. That ends today. What you're about to learn comes from 3 places: my years coaching non-native speakers who've gone on to lead global companies, linguistic research on what actually makes someone sound fluent, and my own journey from a shy student to someone who presents on international stages. Here's what we're covering in the next few minutes. The rhythm principle, the #1 thing native speakers do that you're not doing right now. The connection trigger, how to make people care about what you're saying. The power pause, the technique that instantly makes you sound more confident. Common mistakes that kill your fluency and exactly how to fix them. Your 7-day challenge to actually lock these in. By the end, you won't just speak better English, you'll communicate with intention. Before we jump in, though, I want to know, what's your biggest communication challenge right now? Are you overthinking while speaking, losing confidence in group settings, struggling with presentations? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one and might feature your challenge in an upcoming video. And if you're serious about improving, smash that like button and subscribe. We're posting new techniques every week and you won't want to miss them. Okay, ready? Let's start with the thing that's probably sabotaging you right now. Most learners focus on what they say. Native speakers focus on how it sounds, and there's a massive difference. Think about the rhythm of English. When native speakers talk, they don't give every word equal weight. They create a music, peaks and valleys. Some words get emphasized, some get rushed, and some almost disappear. It's called stress timing, and it's the secret weapon of fluency. Here's the thing. If you pronounce every single word perfectly, but don't have rhythm, you sound robotic. Literally, like you're reading off a script. But when you master rhythm, suddenly you sound natural, confident, and fluid. Why it matters. You can have perfect pronunciation and still sound foreign. Why? Because rhythm isn't about individual sounds. It's about the flow of language. It's what makes someone sound like they were born speaking English, not like they learned it from a textbook. Here's a fact that might blow your mind. Native speakers will forgive you for a strong accent if you have good rhythm, but they'll judge you as not fluent if you have no rhythm, even with perfect pronunciation. The biggest mistake is treating English like a machine gun. Bang, 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 every word, the same speed, same volume. That's not how English sounds. The second mistake is overpronouncing. You over-articulate every consonant, every syllable. It's like you're terrified of being misunderstood, so you attack the language. The third mistake is not using stress at all. You leave everything flat, emotionless, like you're reciting a medical textbook. Examples. Let me show you the difference. Wrong rhythm. I am very happy to be here today with all of you. Each word equally stressed sounds mechanical. Right rhythm. I am very happy to be here today with all of you. Keywords pop, others flow faster. Here's another one. Without rhythm. I think communication is important for business success. Sounds like you're reading. With rhythm, I think communication is important for business success. Sounds natural. Interesting. One more. Flat. Have you ever felt nervous when speaking English? Natural. Have you ever felt nervous when speaking English? See the difference? The second one pulls you in. It sounds like a real conversation, not an interrogation. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Pause this video. Pick any sentence you say regularly in English. Now say it 3 times. First time, stress every word equally. Feel how robotic it is. Second time, stress the first word of every phrase. Feel the difference? Third time, stress the content words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, but let the little words flow. I went to the store and bought some milk. Which version sounds most natural? The third one, right? That's your new default. Remember, content pops, connectors flow. Content words, nouns, main verbs, adjectives, adverbs, get emphasis. Connector words, articles, prepositions, auxiliary verbs, get rushed. That's it. That's the rhythm. I once coached a brilliant engineer from Germany. His English was technically perfect, but in meetings, people would check their phones while he talked. One day I recorded him and played it back. He heard it immediately. He sounded like a GPS. So we spent 2 weeks just working on rhythm. No new vocabulary, no grammar changes, just how he delivered his words. 3 weeks later, he got promoted. His boss said, "You suddenly seem more confident." He wasn't more confident. He just sounded it, because rhythm creates confidence. Does this resonate with you? Have you ever been told you sound robotic, or do people seem disengaged when you speak? Tell me in the comments. But here's the thing about rhythm. It only works if people actually care about what you're saying. And that's what Section 2 is all about. You can have perfect rhythm, perfect grammar, and still bore people to tears because you're not creating a connection. Native speakers do something magical at the beginning of a thought. They don't just start talking, they set a hook. They create a reason for someone to care about what they're about to say. There are 3 connection triggers that work in English. I call them the 3 C's. Curiosity, challenge, and confession. Let's break them down. Curiosity. You open with a question or surprising statement that makes people want to know more. Example. Instead of, "I want to tell you about my vacation," try, "You'll never believe what happened on the last day of my trip." The first one? Nobody cares. The second one, people lean in. Challenge. You present a situation where someone might relate to a problem. Example. Instead of, "I learned to speak English better," try, "You know that moment when you have something brilliant to say, but by the time you translate it in your head, the conversation has moved on?" Confession. You admit something vulnerable or unexpected. Instead of, "I'm good at presentations," try, "I used to shake so badly during presentations that I'd spill my water glass, but I discovered something that completely changed that." Human brains are wired for stories and connection. When you hit someone with raw information, facts, explanations, data, they process it logically. But when you hook them with curiosity, challenge, or confession, they process it emotionally. And emotion is what people remember. Emotion is what people share. Emotion is what makes your English memorable. Here's the research. People forget 90% of what you tell them within 24 hours, but they remember 65% of stories they hear. The first mistake is launching into explanation before you've earned attention. You start with, "So the thing about communication is," and people are already mentally checking out. The second mistake is making your hook about yourself instead of your listener. "I'm so excited to tell you about my project," versus, "You're going to want to hear this because it affects something you care about." The third mistake is not being specific enough. Vague hooks don't work. "That was interesting" doesn't create curiosity. "That was the moment I realized I had been communicating wrong for 10 years" does. Examples. Let me show you how this works in real conversation. Weak. I'm going to talk about time management. Strong with curiosity. I once spent 40 hours a week on work, felt exhausted, and still got nothing important done. Then I discovered the one thing that changed everything. Weak. My English teacher was bad. Strong with challenge. Have you ever had a teacher who made you feel dumber the more you tried to learn? That was my English class. Weak. I made a mistake in the meeting. Strong with confession. I completely bombed my presentation last month. Forgot every word, went completely silent, but that disaster taught me more than a year of coaching ever did. Your turn. Think of something you want to tell someone. A story, an experience, a lesson you've learned. Now rewrite it using one of the 3 C's. Don't just state it, hook it. Take 30 seconds and write it down. Then read it out loud. Does it sound more interesting? Does it make you want to keep talking? That's the magic right there. Before information, create inspiration. Hook first, teach second. Nobody cares about your information until they're emotionally invested. I was in a networking event and I met 2 people who'd both moved to the US from Asia. Both spoke English well, both had interesting careers. The first person told me about her job. I work in marketing. I manage social media strategies. Interesting. I politely listened. The second person said, last year I posted something at 2 a.m. that I thought would get 100 likes. It went viral and almost destroyed my company. That's when I realized the power of what I do. Guess who I remembered? Guess who I actually wanted to keep talking to? The second person had learned the secret. Make people care first, explain second. Here's your challenge. In your next conversation in English, use one of the 3 C's in your first sentence. Did it change how people engaged with you? Tell me what happened. Now you've got rhythm. You've hooked the men. But there's one more technique that instantly makes you sound more powerful and confident. And it's so simple, most people overlook it. Here's something most English learners never do. They don't pause. They rush. They fill silences with and and like. They're terrified of empty space because they think silence equals not knowing what to say. But native speakers know a secret. Silence is powerful. The power pause is simple. It's just stopping for 1 or 2 seconds in the middle of your thought. But it does something magical. It makes you sound more thoughtful and intentional. It gives your listener time to absorb what you just said. It makes you sound more confident because confident people don't rush. And it gives your brain time to compose the next thought instead of scrambling. Here's the neuroscience. When someone rushes, our brains perceive them as anxious or unsure. When someone pauses deliberately, we perceive them as confident and in control. A study from the University of Michigan found that speakers who used strategic pauses were perceived as more intelligent and credible than speakers who didn't. Think about world leaders, great presenters, people you think are good speakers. They pause. They leave space. They don't feel the need to fill every second with sound. The first mistake is confusing a pause with a filler sound. Is not a pause. A pause is silence. The second mistake is pausing in the wrong places. Don't pause randomly. Pause at natural sentence breaks or pause right after you've said something important to let it sink in. The third mistake is pausing too long and losing your momentum. 1 to 2 seconds, not 5, not 10. Examples. Listen to the difference. With fillers, I went to this conference and it was really interesting because I learned about communication and it changed my perspective. With power pauses, so I went to this conference. It was really interesting because I learned about something crucial. It changed my entire perspective on how I communicate. Which sounds more confident. The second one, obviously. Here's another. Rushed. The key to fluency is practice, 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 and consistency and speaking every day and not being afraid. Powerful. The key to fluency is practice. But not just any practice, deliberate practice. And honestly, not being afraid to fail. See, the pauses make it sink in. They emphasize the important parts. Okay, here's your exercise. I want you to record yourself saying this sentence. The most important thing I've learned about English is that it's not about perfection, it's about progression. Say it once without any pauses, just push through. Now say it again, but pause after English is that, and pause after perfection. Listen back. Which version sounds better? Which version would make someone actually remember your point? The pauses win every single time. Pause equals power. Every time you're about to rush, remind yourself, the space is the strength. I once coached a student who spoke English fluently, but was always skipped over for presentation opportunities. Her boss said, "You're great, but you don't sound like a leader." We worked on exactly one thing: pausing. That was it. No new vocabulary, no pronunciation coaching, just pausing deliberately. 2 months later, she led her first major presentation. Her boss came up afterwards and said, "Something's different. You sound way more confident." She was the same person, same ideas, same English level, but the pauses made her sound different. I want you to try this right now. Pause this video, record yourself telling a 30-second story, and include deliberate pauses. How did that feel? Was it uncomfortable at first? All right, you've got the 3 core techniques, but here's where most people mess up. They know these techniques, but they keep making the same mistakes over and over. Let me show you what those mistakes are and how to actually avoid them. Let me address the 3 mistakes that kill your fluency even when you know these techniques. Mistake number 1, inconsistency. You'll use great rhythm for one sentence, then go back to robot voice the next. You'll hook someone in with curiosity, then forget to do it in your next conversation. Why does this happen? Because these techniques feel unnatural at first. Your brain is used to speaking English a certain way, and changing that feels forced. The fix? Don't try to be perfect everywhere. Pick one technique and lock it in for 1 week. Just rhythm, just pauses, just hooks. Master one, then add the next. Example: spend Monday through Sunday only focusing on pausing. Don't worry about rhythm, don't worry about connection, just pause. By the end of the week, it'll feel automatic. Most learners try to change everything at once and end up changing nothing. Don't be that person. Mistake number 2, overthinking in the moment. You're in a real conversation, and suddenly your brain is like, okay, remember to pause, remember to stress the right words, remember to hook them in. And now you sound like a robot because you're thinking about the technique instead of the conversation. The fix? Practice these offline first. Record yourself. Practice with a language exchange partner. Get comfortable when there's no pressure. Then, and only then, bring it into real conversations. When you first learn to drive, you're hyper-aware of every movement, but after a while it becomes automatic. Same with these techniques. The timeline? Practice offline for 2 weeks, then start using in real conversations. Mistake number 3, not adjusting for different contexts. The rhythm you use with friends is different from the rhythm you use in a presentation. The hooks you use in casual conversation are different from the hooks you'd use in a job interview. Most learners don't adjust. They use the same delivery style everywhere. The fix? Notice how native speakers adjust. Listen to casual podcasts versus TED Talks. Notice how the rhythm changes. Notice how the pauses lengthen. Notice how the hooks become more formal. You don't need different techniques, you just need to dial them up or down depending on the context. Example: with friends, more casual rhythm, shorter pauses, playful hooks. In presentations, more pronounced rhythm, longer pauses, more structured hooks. All right, let's lock this in. Here are the 3 core techniques that transform how people perceive your English. The rhythm principle. Stress content words, let connector words flow. Make English sound like music, not a machine. This alone will make you sound dramatically more natural. The connection trigger. Hook people with curiosity, challenge, or confession before you give information. Make people care before they listen. This makes you memorable. The power pause. Use strategic silence. Pause after important points. Let ideas sink in. This makes you sound confident and intentional. The secret: these aren't about grammar or vocabulary. They're about communication strategy. They're about understanding how human brains work. You already speak English. Now you're learning to speak English with impact. your 7-day challenge. Here's what I want you to do starting today. Days 1 to 2. Rhythm only. Pick one sentence you use regularly, master the rhythm. Say it 10 times with proper stress and flow. Days 3 to 4. Connection only. In your next 3 conversations, use at least one hook. Notice how people respond differently. Days 5 to 6. Pauses only. Practice pausing in a safe environment, recording yourself, language exchange partner, one-on-one conversation with a friend. Day 7. All together. Combine all 3 techniques in one conversation or presentation. Feel the difference. At the end of Day 7, comment below, "I did it. Day 7 complete." I want to celebrate with you. Here's the truth that nobody tells you. Fluency isn't a destination. It's not something you arrive at and then you're done. Fluency is a skill, like playing an instrument or playing sports. And just like those, you get better through deliberate practice. But most English courses teach you to focus on the wrong things: grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation of individual sounds. When actually the people who sound most fluent focus on communication strategy. They think about rhythm, they think about connection, they think about delivery. Today, you've learned what they know. The question now is, are you going to use it? Because I promise you this, if you spend the next week actually practicing these techniques, your English will sound different. People will ask you if you've been living in an English-speaking country. They'll tell you that you sound more confident. Not because you're smarter, not because you studied harder, but because you're communicating smarter. So do the challenge. Lock in the rhythm, master the pause, learn to hook people in. And then what? Come back and tell me how it changed your conversations. If this video helped you, please smash that like button. It tells YouTube that you want more content like this, and I'm way more likely to create it. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're dropping new techniques every week, and I don't want you to miss the one that changes your English game. And let me know in the comments, which of these 3 techniques surprised you the most? Which one are you going to focus on first? And finally, if you want to go deeper on communication skills, check out our playlist on confident English speaking. There's 3 more videos there that'll level you up even more. Thank you so much for watching. Keep practicing, keep improving, and remember, your English is already good. You're just learning to make it powerful. I'll see you in the next video.